Something weird is happening in Georgetown, Texas real estate right now. And it breaks almost every rule that you've learned about how real estate markets are supposed to behave. You see, inventory's up, homes are sitting longer, prices are coming down, but buyers are still stacking up and waiting for the right home to appear instead of just picking from what's available. When you look at what the data is actually showing in Georgetown, Texas real estate, right now, a clear and somewhat unusual story shows up. We're going to talk about what's actually driving this weird combination of rising inventory, slower sales, and prices. We're going to look at which Georgetown areas are quietly moving and which ones are stalling, because the gap between them is bigger than most people realize. And we're going to look at what this means for you if you're buying or selling in 2026. I'm Stuart Sutton, a real estate broker who's been helping buyers and sellers right here in Georgetown, Texas for over 3 decades. I track what's happening lane by lane, price band by price band, because Georgetown isn't one market, it's several micro markets, and they perform differently. My job is to give you the honest picture so you can make a confident move based on what the market's actually doing right now. Let's start with the number that surprises most people when they first hear it, because the price story in Georgetown, Texas is not what the headlines are making it out to be. Georgetown, Texas real estate prices are clearly softer, but they're not falling apart the way a lot of people expected in a slower market like this. Data shows that Georgetown's median sale price is around $395,000, which is down about 5.8% from a year ago. That's a very real and measurable change. Now, price per square foot stats follow suit, down year over year. And this tells you that softness is not just a one-off data point, it's actually a real thing. But rest assured, this is not a free fall or crash type of market. It's more like a controlled reset than a collapse. And that controlled reset has been happening steadily since July of 22. And yes, we can nearly pinpoint when that frenzied market stopped and the correction started. And ever since it started, this correction has felt very weird. Normally, when a market cools this much, people expect sharper price drops. Instead, Georgetown's softer, but it's holding together than most people thought it would. So if prices are softer, but not collapsing, the next question is, what's the rest of the market doing around that? For years, one of the biggest problems in Georgetown was lack of inventory. Now, that's not necessarily the issue anymore. Zillow shows active listings climbed 65%, and that's not a small move. Georgetown right now is sitting at approximately 6.3% of supply. But for context, 6 months is traditionally the dividing line between a seller and a buyer market, meaning a normal market. And this gives buyers something they haven't had in a while. And that's a real choice. Now, it's deceiving because it's different in various micro markets around Georgetown. For example, inventory is very different in new homes versus 55 plus homes. And just so you know, because of the variety of housing types and micro markets in Georgetown, a lot of people ask about the day-to-day costs in those different areas in micro markets. So I put together a simple spreadsheet. It's not fancy, but it compares taxes, HOA fees, even whether you can choose your own electric provider. It's simple, but detailed, and it's there to download if you'd like. No hassle, no obligation. So having these kind of choices and a little more leverage sounds great, but it's also making buyers slower and more selective than sellers ever expected. And once buyers get more selective, that's when you really start seeing the next shift. This is where the pressure is really showing up. Homes are taking longer to sell. A lot of sellers are still chasing a market that just doesn't exist anymore. A lot of people bought in 21, 22, 23 and just can't sell for the price they want. Homes are being removed from the market at a higher level than ever. Georgetown, Texas homes are now averaging over 120 days in the market, and that's up from a pretty substantial number last year. The market just doesn't exist where homes are selling in a very short period of time. Now, some of the best homes still do, there's no doubt about it. But keep in mind that the first few weeks matter a lot more now because buyers are watching closely and comparing everything. If a home comes on the market overpriced, buyers don't rush in and forgive it anymore. They move on. Now, homes in Georgetown, Texas are closing a little above 97% of asking. On a $450,000 home, that's 5 figures in negotiating room that simply didn't exist a few years ago. Unfortunately, a lot of sellers still have old pricing expectations in their head from 21 and 22, and even 23. After the market started correcting, it continued down. So that created the pattern we're seeing now. Stale listings, price cuts, and more frustration for sellers than anyone anticipated. But even with all that, there's another side of the story that keeps this market from feeling, well, like a crash market or totally dead. Some homes are still selling, and certain segments are holding up better than others. This is where Georgetown becomes more nuanced. Not every part of the market is behaving the same way. The MLS local data shows that sales are still happening even at a slower pace, and that's not bad. The market is what we call steady. However, the market has split, some homes moving when they're priced right and others just sitting week after week, month after month. Homes priced under $300,000 actually have less than a 4-month supply right now, and that's a positive. Sellers in that price band still have leverage, and buyers in that price range are seeing competition again. On the other hand, $500,000 to $600,000 is still sitting. There's over a 9-month supply. That's firm buyer territory. Now keep in mind that a lot of those are actually new homes, and those are very negotiable. And you're seeing something in Sun City, homes in the $200,000 price range. It's the best value entry for that community that we've seen in years. 55 plus buyers who've been waiting, that lane is opening up. And several of the other 55 plus neighborhoods are showing the same thing. So if the market is slower, inventory's up, and some homes are still moving, the big question is, why have prices not broken harder? Keep in mind that Georgetown still has enough long-term support underneath to keep this from turning into, well, a crash market. Census data for Georgetown shows major population growth and continues to attract people from across the country. Williamson County itself has shown strong job growth tied directly to the Austin tech expansion, with major employers like Tesla, Apple, Dell, and Samsung all operating in that broad corridor. Now, Pegatron, a major Taiwan-based tech manufacturer, is setting up its first U.S. operation right here in Georgetown, Texas this year in 26. That brings high-wage engineering and technical jobs right into this immediate market. Long-term developments like Wolf Lakes Village and Heirloom are still moving forward, signaling that private investment in Georgetown's future hadn't slowed down a bit. Georgetown still benefits from being in the path of North Austin growth while offering a different lifestyle and a lower price point than Austin, Texas. So even though momentum has slowed in the short term, the long-term demand story is still very much in favor of Georgetown, Texas. And that's why the market feels so strange right now. The word combination is confusing everyone. Yes, Georgetown has signs of a buyer market, but not the full behavior of one. Inventory is definitely up. There's no doubt about that. Days on the market are longer. No doubt about that. Sellers are cutting prices and closing below list price. No doubt about that. But buyers have not disappeared. Sales are still happening. Long-range growth drivers are still intact for Georgetown. That creates a weird in-between market where buyers and sellers both can make serious mistakes if they're using old expectations. Again, buyers who assume they can lowball homes just because they've been sitting on the market are going to miss good values. And sellers who price based on what the neighbor got a couple of years ago are going to wait longer than they planned with their homes sitting on the market. So what does all of this mean for you if you're buying or selling in Georgetown, Texas right now? Georgetown, Texas real estate has been in a correcting phase since that crazy frenzied market of 21 and half of 22. But it's also not a panic market where everything's falling apart. It's more of a selective market, a more patient market. A market where strategy actually matters a lot more than it used to. Buyers do have more leverage than they used to, there's no doubt about it, but they still need to know where the softness is real and where demand might be holding up, because those are very different conversations depending on the price band and the lane you're in. On the other hand, sellers can still get results even though a lot of homes are sitting, but only if they price and position correctly from the beginning. Studies show that pricing right from the beginning is profitable. Sellers who are winning right now are not the ones hoping that the market comes back to them. They're the ones meeting buyers where they actually are in this real estate market. Yes, this weird real estate market. So that's really the big takeaway here. Georgetown, Texas is one of those in-between markets right now where the usual rules don't apply as cleanly as people expect. It's not the wild seller market we had a few years ago in 21 and 22, but it's also not a correction market where everything's crashing either. Buyers have more room, more leverage, more choices, but sellers who understand how to price and position properly can still get results. The problem is when people come into this market using old expectations. Buyers just can't assume they can steal anything because homes are sitting longer. And sellers can't assume they can still be priced on what their neighbor got a couple years ago, because that's where people get in trouble. So if you're thinking about buying in Georgetown, Texas, or selling in Georgetown, or just trying to figure out which neighborhoods and price points are actually moving right now, call or text me. I actually do respond to my own calls and texts, or if you prefer, use that link below in the description and schedule a call with me. What I do with most people is help break down what's actually happening in your specific area, your price range, your situation, so that you can make the right move with real data instead of just guessing. And remember, it's your choice, so make it a powerful day.